I am sure that you know what a dragon is. If you haven't, you must be living under a rock. But just in case, I'm going to explain what a dragon is. A dragon is hard to define, actually. There's no set definition of what a dragon is, but it usually refers to a large, winged reptile that breathes fire. Of course, there are exceptions. A dragon isn't always large, like in the case of Beowulf, where the dragon is only about the size of a horse. There's also pseudo-dragons, which grow to be the size of a large cat in adulthood. So not all dragons are big. So we can move on to their other characteristics to define them. Dragons have wings. Or do they? There are plenty of dragons that don't have wings, a prominent example of which is Chinese dragons. Chinese dragons don't have wings. They're referred to as lungs. Lungs have 4 legs and a long body, with whiskers on their face. They sometimes even look like turtles or fish. So we can't define a dragon using its wings. So let's see what else we have on the list. Ah, all dragons are reptiles. Well, not always. You see, 99.99999% of the time, dragons are reptiles. But it isn't a constant. There are very occasionally mammals for dragons, or fish. Again, it's not common, but it still happens in fantasy. That was probably the best definition thus far, but we've got another characteristic to define them by. Dragons breathe fire. Most of the time. There are indeed dragons that do not breathe fire. The Chinese dragons, the lungs, do not breathe fire. There are also sea serpents that don't have fire, or they just spit lightning. You know, sea dragons. Not all dragons can breathe fire, but dragons are the only living creature in most forms of fantasy that can breathe fire. There are creatures from mythology, such as the chimera or the phoenix, that can breathe fire as well, but when you hear fire breath, you think of dragons.
Am a monument to all your sins.
So what exactly do dragons represent? Everything in mythology tends to symbolize something, after all. Well, it varies from mythology to mythology, but if there's one thing that's most common, it is sin. Dragons are very sinful creatures, being infamous for their pride, their greed, their lust, their envy, their gluttony, their wrath, and their sloth. Let's dissect each of these attributes one by one. Dragons are prideful. They think of themselves as being powerful creatures, and I mean, who can blame them? Look at these things. They are immortal in some mythologies, and even the weakest dragons are known to outlive humans. They live for hundreds, sometimes even thousands of years. Their age contributes to their pride as they watch generations of humans grow and wither. They watch kingdoms rise and fall, and they see it all from the tops of the tallest mountains. Can you really blame them for their pride? Dragons are greedy. They collect entire mountains of gold, taking enough wealth to fund kingdoms. If a single dragon decided to be generous, they could save millions of lives. They could fund a kingdom and hire a private army to defend it. You know, if a wealthier dragon had even a smudge of common sense, they would hire adventurers to collect beautiful relics for them, giving them powerful artifacts and gold in exchange. They could start a museum with countless beautiful paintings and sculptures, and they could charge a small fee for anyone to tour their collection, and they could just rake in the gold. You know, that sounds like a cool idea for a D&D campaign. You get tasked with tracking down some old paintings and art and whatnot, and you get paid to do so. Most dragons would rather burn down entire villages and take their gold, so I guess they would rather get their gold quickly, rather than going on an elaborate process that would result in less pain for themselves and others. Kind of like a get-rich-quick kind of thing. I suppose it's in their nature. Now let's talk about the next attribute that these dragons possess. They are lustful. Now, I know this doesn't get much attention in stories because, frankly, who wants to talk about horny dragons? So there isn't much here to discuss. I will say, dragons have a tendency to get it on, and they're known to get rather upset if their partner refuses. This also plays into their wrath, but they'll also commit particular crimes whose name I can't say on YouTube without the slightest qualms. Moving on. Dragons are very often envious. They will kill other dragons just for their loot, which is not because they want it, but because they don't want the other to have it. This also plays into their greed, and I think greed and envy are a little similar, but they're different enough. They just like to have things, just for the sake of taking those things away from others. Dragons don't like it when you have things, so they'll try to take it away from you just for the hell of it. They hate you, and particularly you. This particular aspect of their nature is not too different from greed, so I'll just move on from here. Dragons are gluttonous. They devour entire villages and they can still not be sated. They love to eat, but strangely, they can sleep for decades without starving. This means that they can conserve energy very well. So they devour a ton of meat, then they sleep for decades. Even the non-violent dragons do love a good meal. However, they will rarely beg for food. That is the flaw that most dragons have. They are willing to put their pride above their health. If one tip that dragons should follow, don't let pride keep you from a good meal. Doing whatever it takes to relieve yourself of your gnawing hunger. You know what would make an interesting dragon story? Is a dragon with good taste. They have a group of humans that they pay to prepare them the most delicious of meals. That would be an interesting story. Moving on to the wrath section of this video, this part will most likely be the longest. Dragons torch villages and slaughter hundreds, if not thousands. They bring down kingdoms and destroy all in their path. They would kill you and your whole family just because you stole a single piece of gold from their hoard. They will kill and maim and burn and kill, and I love it. I love how violent they are. It's a nice breather from how kind everyone pretends to be all the time. We all have moments where we wish we could just unleash our fury, just like a dragon. We all want to be a massive beast from time to time, wouldn't you agree? We all have that craving for destruction, that dragon within us, eh? Finally, we come to sloth. Dragons are known for sleeping for decades or even centuries at a time. This one requires little explanation. They eat, they steal, then they... So you see now that dragons are true living embodiments of sin. Dragons make for amazing villains, and I just love a good villain. They are sinful and destructive, and I adore them for it. Now that we're done talking about bad dragons, let's move on to the good ones. Not all dragons are evil, some are known to be neutral or even benevolent. There are dragons like the Lung, if you remember our earlier discussion about Chinese mythology, which are long serpentine dragons that can fly, despite having no wings. These dragons are seen as good omens, and they bring good weather and rain to help crops grow. There are also metallic dragons from Dungeons & Dragons, who are all helpful to others in their own ways. There are also dragons from the Inheritance Cycle, who are mostly good. These dragons bond with humans to fight evil. Most of them are good, but then you have the Forsworn. The Forsworn were so evil, the names of their dragons were expunged from history. You also have dragons from movies, like from How to Train Your Dragon, who are originally hostile, but can be trained to help you. While we're on the topic of dragons being trained to help humans, allow me to introduce you to Paarthurnax. Paarthurnax is from the Elder Scrolls Skyrim. He is a dragon who helps the player defeat Alduin, the big bad evil guy. Here's the thing. Paarthurnax used to be evil, but he overcame his evil nature through meditation and study. He literally taught himself how to be a good guy. My man practically invented being good. I will play you one quote that perfectly sums up Paarthurnax's character.
What is better, to be born good, or to overcome your evil nature through great effort?
He taught humanity how to use the Thu'um, giving them hope against Alduin and his reign of terror. Paarthurnax is a good guy, and I have yet to kill him in any of my playthroughs. The only reason you would have to kill Paarthurnax is to help an organization known as the Blades. This is the perfect segue into my next section. As long as there are humans and dragons in the same world, there will always be dragon slayers. Dragon slayers are humans who have undertaken the endeavor of killing a dragon. There are famous dragon slayers from history, such as Beowulf and St. George. Then you have more recent dragon slayers in literature, such as Ornstein and Havel from Dark Souls 3, the Dragonborn from Skyrim, or characters like Arthur from that Dragon Slayer book that I'm currently writing right now. Let me be clear. Killing a dragon is a serious undertaking. It's extremely rare for a single man to kill a dragon alone. Most dragon slayers travel in groups, and even that doesn't guarantee their physical safety. Dragon slayers run a constant risk of death. They have a very hard time bringing down such powerful beasts, despite their superior training and armor. They typically make their armor and weapons out of the bones and scales of dragons, meaning they are incredibly tough and durable. Dragon bones are harder than diamonds in a lot of fantasy worlds, so armor made from them gives you nigh invulnerability. Ironically enough, dragon armor gives you full protection from any threats except for dragons. When you're wearing dragon bone armor, the only thing that can really hurt you is a dragon. Of course, you need to kill a dragon to get its bones, so dragon slaying is a high-risk, high-reward endeavor. Not only that, they like to hoard gold, so you'll be getting a large sum of money for your efforts. Killing a single dragon will make you rich beyond your wildest dreams. But once you kill one, why not kill another? After all, you already know you can kill them, and besides, who wouldn't want more gold? Of course, this can lead you down a dark path that leads you no better than the dragons themselves. So that's Dragon Slayers for you. Dragon Slayers are one of my favorite fantasy professions, and they are super cool. Almost every dragon ever has had some sort of breath weapon. Like always, there are exceptions, but most dragons have some sort of fire or lightning or something like that. Most of the time, it's related to the color of their scales, but not always. Red dragons have fire breath, matched to the color of their scales. But you want to know who else has fire breath? Literally any other color of dragon. Sometimes. Gold dragons sometimes have fire breath. Sometimes green dragons have fire breath. Sometimes black dragons have fire breath. But black dragons also have acid breath. And sometimes they spit straight dark. And sometimes it's purple dragons that spit dark. And sometimes purple dragons teleport instead of having dark breath. And I'm gonna hurt my brain trying to cover all this. Dragons breathe violent stuff. Most of the time. Got it? Good. Let's move on. Dragons are super inconsistent with their depictions in both mythology and fantasy. The only thing that is mostly consistent is that they are dangerous if they want to be. That's all you can know for real, most of the time. Let's start wrapping this up. You're getting bored of my ranting. Thanks for watching. If you've gotten this far, you must have liked the video. That means you should subscribe. Unless you hated it, and you're still watching because you're laughing at how stupid I am. See? Even my viewers are inconsistent. I don't think I made a single statement in this video that is always true. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.